If you're a coach or practitioner who earns somewhere around 8 to 10, maybe 12K per month in your online business, and it seems like no matter what you do, either your income stays exactly the same, or once in a while you'll get a little spike. You'll get to like 20, 25K, maybe even 30, and then it'll go right back down to 8 or 10. You're on this income roller coaster, and it feels like nothing you do is actually growing anything. And it's just this hamster wheel of income that resets every single month. I cannot tell you how many people I've worked with who are in this exact scenario, especially after being in online business for at least a few years. I've been in my online business since 2014, so I have definitely seen a lot of different seasons of business, seasons of my life, different industry trends that have come and gone. And the one through line that I tend to see with the people that I've worked with, and at this point I've worked with over 400 coaches and practitioners to help them grow their online businesses, they're missing something really important in their business that makes everything a lot harder for them to actually see ongoing progress. And that's what I want to talk about today. I'm going to talk about why your sales are so inconsistent and why it feels like no matter what you do, you're never actually seeing a growing ROI from all the work you're putting in, and how to construct your business in a way that allows you to have more predictable sales over time. Most business advice is built on one key assumption, that what worked for someone else will work for you too. The Nourished CEO podcast exists to challenge that assumption and point to a better way. I'm Laura Schoenfeld, strategic advisor and business coach with over 15 years of experience online and multiple millions of dollars earned from my own business. I'm also a mom of 2 and a devoted wife who runs it all in about 20 hours a week. This show is for the established coach, consultant, or service provider who is done following someone else's playbook and is ready to build a joyful, profitable business from their own authority. Every episode is a direct, no filters conversation about the real challenges you're facing in your business, with honest strategy and practical action steps that you can actually use right now. Because working smarter and building something sustainable matters a lot more than just chasing a bigger number. No recycled advice or empty inspiration here, just honest, integrity-driven conversations about building a business that fits your life as much as it fits your goals, so that it gives more than it takes while nourishing everything you're building outside of it. If that sounds like the breath of fresh air you're looking for, you're in the right place. Now, at this point, you're probably noticing that all of your sales are coming from a lot of manual effort. There's a lot of content that you're putting out. There's a lot of posting that you're doing. There's a lot of conversations that you're having, DMs, email, sales calls. There's a lot of stuff that you're doing to be able to make more money. And it probably feels like there's not just a lot of effort involved, but there's actually a lot of luck involved too, right? Like, have you ever had that experience where you're doing the same stuff over and over, and then you'll randomly have one thing pop off, or maybe you'll be on a podcast and all of a sudden there's this influx of demand for your services, and then the next month is crickets. That income roller coaster is so stressful, and it makes it really hard to plan anything, especially if your income is a big source of your family's lifestyle, or if you're like me and you're the only breadwinner in the family. It can put a lot of pressure on you when you feel like you never really know where your next dollar is coming from. And worse, if you have a lot of stuff going on, you have clients that you're working with, you have a family that depends on you, you don't want to have a business that relies on you being so hooked to your screen all the time in order to move sales forward. You don't want to have to DM somebody back and forth for 2 weeks to maybe get a yes or maybe get ghosted. You don't want to necessarily jump on a sales call where you spend 45 minutes explaining your offer and the person still ends up saying, I have to think about it. You want to be able to have people in your world understand what you do, see why it would benefit them, and come to sales conversations already with one foot in your offer and just needing that last little touch point from you to be able to say yes to what you do and to be able to pay the prices that you want to charge as a skilled expert in your craft. So if that sounds like what you're looking for in your business, I want to share what the one most important asset that you can build in your business to be able to accomplish that is. And this is something that I've seen make such a big difference, especially for those clients that I work with who are making sales, but it's wildly unpredictable. Now, I want you to imagine, what would it feel like if you had an asset in your business that was doing selling behind the scenes for you literally every day, even if you're not showing up online? This asset is something that can make sales easier, make clients feel like they actually know what you're selling before you even talk to them. It helps pre-qualify people, so you're not getting those people in sales conversations that literally have no idea what you do or why they should care or why they should pay for it. Everything gets smoother in your business with this one asset, and that asset is a sales bridge. So a sales bridge essentially is a link between your marketing, your content that you're putting out, messaging, emails, social media, podcasts, video, YouTube, wherever you're putting content out. Being able to connect that with what you do for your clients in your paid containers. So your offers. Hopefully you have one core offer that all of your stuff is pointing to. But whether you have one core offer or a suite of offers, you need some way for your marketing and your offers to talk to each other. And I cannot tell you the number of people I have worked with or even just had conversations with where they have all of this content, they have all of this effort going into being visible online, and they have this completely life-changing, transformative offer that when they get a client into it, it's amazing. It gets them a great result. They love it. They rave about it to their friends. They send referrals. The program is awesome, but there's nothing connecting those two things. And it makes it really, really hard to drag people from your audience into your paid offer. And you spend so much time trying to convince people that they should work with you instead of focusing on the things that you're really meant to be doing as the face of your business, as the CEO, as the lead coach or consultant or practitioner. And that is creating content, showing up online, being visible, and then delivering an excellent service or product to the clients that you're working with. That's what you are really designed to be doing. Chasing people in the DMs, having these really long sales calls that half the time go nowhere, that is not your best use of time. And the reason that you're doing that so much right now in your business is because you do not have that link between your marketing and your product or your offer. So when I work with clients who are already making money and they're working their tail off trying to get clients into that program, and they're experiencing this up and down revenue in their business because they might have a good month, they might have a crap month, they might have like one email that hits and they get a bunch of applications in 1 month, and then the next month nobody's applying. Like that experience, the reason that that is happening is because you do not have a cohesive, centralized sales link between those two things, and it's making it way harder for you to make sales than it needs to be. Now, I want to share an example of a client that I worked with who was missing this sales link, and he was launching, he was selling on his podcast, he was selling in the emails that people were sending back and forth. He had to do a lot of legwork to actually get people into sales conversations. And worse, when they actually got into those sales conversations, they didn't want the offer that he wanted to sell. So this client of mine, I actually have a longer case study interview with him if you want to hear it from him directly about his experience working through this process together. But I wanted to focus on the part of his story that really emphasizes the value of this sales link, because if you do not have that sales link, you're going to have the same problem that this client Chris did, and you're going to be experiencing that roller coaster revenue. So Chris came to me, he had 2 different offers that he was selling. So he's a UK-based nutritionist. He works with clients to help them overcome eating disorders. The work he does is super valuable. It's life-saving in a lot of cases, and it's worth a lot of money. Now, he's in a niche where getting help with eating disorders is generally an expensive process. So people expect things to be a little bit more expensive. His issue was not the price. His issue was that he was trying to sell an offer that people did not realize why they should want. So Chris had been in business since 2009. That is a long time. That's longer than what most people have been doing. He's been podcasting since 2015. So again, 11 years of podcasting, that is quite the record. Most people barely make it past 10 episodes, let alone 10 years. And he wanted to start scaling his revenue with a group program because he was pretty much tapped out on one-on-one availability. He was doing about 100,000 pounds a year of income, and that wasn't really enough for him, his wife, and his child, his family, to have the life that they wanted. And that income fluctuation when he was the only person making the money in his family was super, super stressful. And when you have kids, there's just an extra layer of stress that comes when you are responsible for a child and your business is the only thing that is making the money that you need to make. So when Chris came to me, he had done a lot of different things. He had his one-on-one offer was priced at just over £5,000. And that was his entry point offer. He also had a longer offer that was 9 months long, priced close to £9,000, and people were buying those. So he already had experience selling high ticket. It's not like he couldn't make sales. He just wanted to have this scalable offer to be more of his revenue, and he wanted to double his revenue from about £100,000 a year to closer to £200,000. He priced this group offer at about £1,500. So not super cheap, but definitely way lower than his £5,000 to £9,000 price. I always want to say dollars. He's not selling in dollars. He's selling in pounds. He's in the UK. So it was a lot lower priced than his one-on-one offer. And he wanted to honestly get most of his clients into that group program. It was an excellent program. It was getting great results for the people in it. It was scalable. He could do more with less time. He could have a bigger impact without having to do the same stuff over and over for individual sessions. But he was having a really hard time selling it. And people that were coming into his sales conversations most of the time were saying that they wanted the one-on-one instead. Now, what he didn't understand and what we realized as we were working together is that his one-on-one offer already had baked in demand for it. So if you think about the eating disorder space, getting one-on-one therapy, coaching, consulting from a trained provider is the expectation for how you're going to get treated for that situation. He didn't have to create demand for one-on-one because the demand already existed. And so when people came to him, they already trusted him. They already knew him. They already wanted to work with him. They just didn't understand why they should pick a group offer over one-on-one. They believed that one-on-one was the thing that was going to help them get the result, and that's what they wanted to pay for. And nothing that Chris did could convince them that they should want the group. He tried running a launch. He ran ads to get clients into the launch. He spent, I think the first one is about £1,600. He made about $27,000 from that first launch. Sounds great, right? He was like, ready to scale. Let's add some more ad spend to this. So he spent about £10,000 in ad spend leading up to this next launch. And the launch did about £15,000. And what added insult to injury on that launch is that he had done this pricing strategy to try to get more people in, to give them a discount to get them in. And a bunch of people that got the discount asked for a refund. So I don't even think he made any money off of the second launch of this group program. And he was super stressed about it because he worked his tail off to prepare this launch. He spent all this money on ads and he did not make any profit from the launch. And again, this is a guy that when he sends an email out to his list can pull in like £20,000 of one-on-one client sales because people want to work with him. He is not good at selling, right? Like we know that he was able to get clients. We know that he was able to charge high ticket prices for his life-changing work. But something about this group program just was not working for him. And he got to a point where he was like, maybe this just isn't going to work. Maybe I just need to ditch it all together and just stick with one-on-one and just accept that this is as much money as I'll ever make as somebody who's been in business for 10 years, willing to do the work, committed to the results, had spent a lot of money on coaching at that point, and had never really crossed that plateau that he was at. But he came to me and decided to take a chance, even though, like I said, he had already invested in other coaches. He took a chance because we had worked together previously and he had gotten really good results from that original work that we did. And he was ready for that next level and he trusted that I could help him get there. So when I saw what he was doing with his group program, the way he was selling it, the way it was positioned, the way that he had to work so hard to try to get people into this group program, but he could sell his one-on-one so easily, I noticed that there was really two issues with his business structure. The first issue was that the offer didn't really have a strong sales bridge for it. So even with this launch, he was not making a strong case for why the group program was actually the best way for them to get the support that they wanted. And so people just didn't see the value in it. It didn't have that baked in demand the way that the one-on-one service did. The second part that was the problem is that the offer just wasn't that attractive to people. He liked doing one-on-one. He wasn't opposed to doing one-on-one. And he was selling this offer in a way that was making it very low commitment. It was lifetime access to the curriculum. So there really wasn't any reason for people to stick around in the offer. And he was constantly trying to bring new people in while there was existing people in there. And it just made it this really clunky and difficult to deliver offer. And he really wasn't making hardly any money on it. So I could see, it was very clear why he was ready to get rid of the whole thing. But he didn't want to. He really wanted to figure out, how do I scale this? Because he just knew he had something that would have the potential to work for him and to hit the goals that he had, to be able to make the money he wanted to make, to be able to provide for his family in the way that he wanted to, and to be able to help people at the level that he was capable of helping people with. So basically, we did two really important things with him. We fixed his offer, which is a lot of times not massively changing anything, not starting from scratch, not blowing up the whole thing and starting over. A lot of times it's just either repackaging it on the front end or refining the offer suite to make it a really simple offer that is attractive to your dream audience and makes it easy to sell, which is exactly what we did with him. Now, when he came to work with me, he had spent a lot of time and money learning messaging, and it still just wasn't clicking for him. And honestly, I think what he really just needed was somebody to look at it with him, which is exactly what I did, right? It's very difficult for you to be able to come up with your own messaging without having some level of objective input on what you're talking about, on how clear it is, on how compelling it is. And I think a lot of the programs he had invested in originally just had like no access to the person coaching. And so a lot of it was like throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping that the messaging was accurate. And the only time he was really testing this messaging was during these launches. So it was a super high pressure test. He had spent a lot of money to get these people in, and it was like a lot was riding on those launch experiences. And he came out of those launch experiences not really knowing what landed, what didn't, what worked, what didn't. Clearly something didn't work because it did not create much profit, if at all, any profit. But he wanted to figure out, okay, what do I need to say to help people understand why this offer is the thing that they should buy versus my one-on-one? So he thought, okay, my messaging is not working great. He thought the overall structure and price of the offer was like something was off with it. He didn't know if it should be launch-based or evergreen. He didn't know if it should be lower price, higher price. Like he just was feeling very confused about the actual structure of the offer itself. And then he also had the constraint of his schedule. So if you have little kids like I do, you know that you do not have massive blocks of uninterrupted time to be working on your business. And if you have a lot of one-on-one clients like Chris did, a lot of your time is spent delivering your service. So he was spending a lot of time delivering his service and a lot of time producing his podcast and his content. And there wasn't really a ton of time to do any big projects to move the business forward. And couple that with the fact that he was feeling really confused about the offer, the messaging, there was just this really big block, right? The mental block, as well as the lack of time blocks to be able to work on the sales asset, the sales bridge that he wanted to create. So what I saw was that he had this podcast, but his podcast was not doing much work to actually sell his offer. He told me that one time he talked about his one-on-one coaching offer to try to make some money quickly because he had that launch that really didn't do well. He was feeling a little desperate, backed up against the wall, needed to get some cash in the business. So he mentioned on his podcast that he had this one-on-one offer, and he made 6 sales of his program within a week of that podcast coming out. So clearly the demand existed, but the podcast was not selling for him on a regular basis. It's hard for a podcast to sell on a regular basis because you don't want your podcast to be a sales pitch. You want it to be something that's high value and it's going to actually be worth listening to. So he didn't want to necessarily have this podcast that was constantly just talking about his offer and selling his offer. But that experiment told us that, hey, there are people in your audience that want to work with you and they really just need a little bit of activation to actually step into a paid offer. So we had 10 years of this podcast that was nurturing people almost to death. I mean, like nurturing people for like years. I think he said he had somebody who listened to his podcast for 6 years before buying anything with him. So clearly, like he had a loyal listener base, but it wasn't doing a ton on the sales side for him. The proof that his audience was ready to buy was from that one promotion he did in the podcast where he made 32,000 pounds in a week from offering that one-on-one offer. And so we knew, okay, you have buyers in your audience. We just need to be able to connect them from the audience to the offer. And that is not happening right now. Now, the other big issue we had to work on was the fact that his group offer was kind of underwhelming compared to the one-on-one. And the fact that he was offering this lifetime access meant that he just had to be selling it all the time, getting new people in all the time. And then he would have people in the program who had been there for months and these new people coming in. And it just was this like really disjointed mismatch of the group experience. And I just think that that can really affect your conviction around selling when you feel like the offer itself is not working as well as you want it to work. So the offer needed really consolidation. I know he loves one-on-one. He wants to scale beyond just one-on-one, but he didn't want to get rid of it entirely. So I was like, well, why don't we just create this as a hybrid offer where there's a little bit of one-on-one included and a lot of more scalable resources, group calls, the things that help make this actually scalable so that you're not selling this completely separate offer. You're just selling a more comprehensive type of one-on-one services, which is already, like I said before, there's already some demand for that in his audience. And we want to create something that just feels almost better than pure one-on-one, than something that's competing with your one-on-one or actually is being perceived as much lower value, which is what his issue was with his group program. Now, one other issue that Chris had it took a little bit of time to solve this one because he was very resistant to it for good reason. His podcast had a great loyal audience, but it wasn't necessarily growing a ton. And he didn't have the discoverability that he needed for getting new people into his world on a consistent basis. He had tried Instagram and basically wrote it off. I think he had kind of like not touched his Instagram for a couple years by the time we were working together again. Mostly because he felt like the format that he was taught that was going to work on Instagram was completely not aligned with who he was or how he wanted to show up in the world. Things like reels, B-roll, like lip syncing videos, all this stupid stuff that I say stupid. If you like that stuff, it's fine. When you are a legitimate, trained, professional clinician working in a serious type of industry like eating disorder recovery, doing goofy reels to try to get attention is not something that's going to be aligned with your business. And so he had this Instagram account. He had some followers. I think it was a couple thousand followers, but he wasn't using it because he hated it. He hated using Instagram. And so I didn't necessarily like push him into Instagram, but we did talk about the fact that he did need some way for people to discover him. And he kind of slowly got back on this idea that, okay, maybe Instagram can work. I already have the audience. Why reinvent the wheel? Let's like just refresh this thing and start creating content for it again. So we had 3 core issues we had to deal with. We had to deal with the fact that his offer really wasn't attractive to his ideal client the way it was currently constructed. He didn't really have a strong sales link between his audience, what they wanted, and this particular offer. And he was not as discoverable as he needed to be for getting new people into his world in a predictable way. So here's what we did. First, we combined his lower tier one-on-one and the group program into one hybrid offer, which made it a lot easier to sell and it actually allowed him to raise the price on that offer so that he wasn't trying to like sell this sub 2,000 pound version of something that people didn't even want. He sold a hybrid that was really replacing that lower tier one-on-one and was just as attractive, if not more attractive, for the people coming into his world. We also built a core messaging foundation. I call this a thesis. This is a set of beliefs and perspectives that make the center of your entire messaging strategy. And these beliefs are the ones that if somebody is to adopt and to take on and to believe in, it makes your offer a no-brainer next step for them. I actually hate the word no-brainer. It's not a no-brainer next step. It's just the obvious next step. It's like, okay, this is clearly the thing I need to do. It doesn't mean it doesn't take some courage to do it. It just means they don't see another path that's going to work for them. This is a process, this whole messaging framework that I help my clients build, their thesis, is something that actually creates demand for your method, for your way of solving the problem. And that makes your offer the obvious choice versus trying to make your offer the thing that they think they need. And then they're going to go price shop and see if somebody else has a better offer, a better price point, something that they can get for cheaper, something that's lower commitment, because we're all human. None of us want to spend money on solving problems. We all want to hit the easy button. If you're going to sell high ticket, you have to be able to get somebody bought in to the way you do things and really believe that the value is there and the value is more than what they're going to spend on it. So when we did that sales framework, the thesis, we were able to build a really simple sales system for him to be able to present that thesis in a way that when people watched it, when they consumed it, even if he presented it on sales calls, people immediately understood what he was doing, how he was going to help them, why it was different than what they've already tried, and how it was going to be the best solution for them to heal from their eating disorder. So that completely changed everything for him, because not only did that make it way easier for him to sell this new hybrid offer, and I say new, it was really just a combination of the group plus the lower the lower entry point one-on-one. We just combined those. So there really wasn't anything new that he was building. It was just recalibrating his offer suite so that he could sell the more scalable thing to the people who were already buying at that higher price point, but it was done in a way that made that scalable offer way more attractive for people. And then we were able to link that with this thesis messaging so that now all of his messaging in his marketing, his content, whether that's his podcast or his Instagram, could all point back to this core thesis messaging that made his offer the obvious next step for people. I really want you to take this home. If you're not going to remember anything else from this conversation today, I want you to think about, do you have an asset in your business that connects your marketing to your offer in a way that pre-sells and pre-qualifies your ideal clients? Because if you don't have that, I can promise you sales will always be unpredictable for you, and you will never be able to get into a place where you know what lever to pull or what dial to turn to be able to get clients coming into the offer that you want to sell, whether that's a one-on-one offer, a group program, a hybrid, whatever you're selling. You need that sales bridge, you need that sales link, and it needs to be based on your thesis framework, which is the messaging that creates demand and desire for your method that you deliver within your core offer. So that is the big take home from this conversation. If you do not have something that connects your marketing to your offer, you will never have consistent sales. So what else did we do? Like I said, he restarted his Instagram. This was a little bit of a slow build, but he discovered that the only type of content he likes to create on Instagram is carousels, written carousels. And he does not do anything to create any visual interest other than just having bold text. It's like dark blue text on a white background, and the hook is very clear. That is all he does. And this started to grow his account like crazy. I'll talk about the results on the account in a minute, but the platform of Instagram was not the issue. He needed somewhere for people to discover his work in a more high reach way, in a more visible way. And the podcast just wasn't enough to do that for him. So when he got back into Instagram, being able to create messaging that grabbed the attention of his ideal client and pointed them to his sales link, then he was able to make much more predictable sales from the content he was putting out. And he also knew exactly what he needed to talk about to get the right people into his world and into that sales conversation. So honestly, when we look at the things that changed in his business, there was a lot that we didn't change because he had a lot that was already technically working for him. that did not need to be adjusted. So his niche was great. We did not do anything with his niche. Honestly, like we didn't even really need to change his avatar because he was already talking to people who had desire and demand for what he did. And he was solving a very high value problem. So didn't change his niche at all. His audience was already spending high ticket with him. So like he already had a lot of people in his audience that were primed and ready to invest in the offer as soon as it actually matched what they were looking for. The price point was basically the same. Like I said, he kept that midpoint offer. He just combined it with the group program and took some of the one-on-one out because they honestly didn't need it. And he kept that price the same. He did not drop it. He did not have to do any crazy discounts or anything to try to incentivize people to buy. He didn't have to make it like a price no-brainer, which I think is one of the ways that a lot of people try to get their group program to sell more or their scalable program to sell more. They think, well, if I just lower the price, people will buy it. That is rarely the thing that actually moves things forward. So he didn't have to lower his prices. He didn't have to, bend over backwards to get people to get into the program. He didn't have to create like a low ticket entry point. He didn't have to turn it into a membership, which he was thinking about doing. Like there was just a lot of things that he thought maybe he should do that he did not have to do. His podcast stayed pretty much exactly as is. He didn't have to massively change his strategy for that. The only difference now is that he has a call to action that drives people to the sales link and makes it easy for him to make sales from his podcast. And he doesn't have to sell hard on it, which is, like I said earlier, you don't want to have to sell hard on your podcast. You want your podcast to really be valuable and helpful for people. You don't want it to have to be this like sleazy sales pitch because who wants to listen to that? Nobody wants to listen to a podcast that's just a sales pitch the whole time. His Instagram account, we didn't start a new Instagram account. He didn't have to start doing any content that he hated. He didn't have to start doing like Yap videos. He didn't have to start doing skits. He didn't have to start doing trendy stuff. He literally just posts the exact same formatted carousel and his VA does the design for him. So all he has to do is write some good content to put on a carousel. And that is all he does to grow his Instagram account. He didn't add any more deliverables. He didn't create more curriculum. He didn't pack his offer full of bonuses. He really just kept things simple and he kept it attractive to his ideal client. And ultimately, he didn't even have to write his messaging from scratch. We just looked at what he was already doing and pulled the strongest material from it in order to put it into that core thesis messaging that did the heavy lifting for him to get those sales. So what happened with Chris's outcomes here? Because I'm sure you want to know, okay, what actually did all of this work produce? His sales into his hybrid offer are now converting way more easily, and people are not choosing strict one-on-one instead of this hybrid offer. He's able to deliver a really high quality, higher ticket hybrid offer for people who would normally have just signed up for a one-on-one. And it's less one-on-one time, which again, he likes one-on-one, so we're not trying to eliminate it entirely, but there's less one-on-one time for him to deliver his service, and he's able to serve way more people with the same amount of work that he would have had to do if he was selling that offer as strictly one-on-one. The conversations go faster, people understand what he's selling when he's on these sales calls, and he doesn't have to do anywhere near the level of convincing that he used to have to do. And honestly, I don't know if he's doing any convincing. He's really just presenting his method and helping them understand this is what you need, this is what you're looking for, and it's a lot easier for him to sell. Now, his Instagram account is kind of the crazy part because, again, Chris hates Instagram. I don't know if he hates it anymore because he's getting such great results with it. But using the messaging framework we came up with his thesis messaging, he is now able to put out all this different type of carousel content on Instagram in a very quick and easy way. And he went from a dormant account with about 4,500 followers to now he has over 13,000 engaged followers. He's getting like hundreds, if not thousands of likes and comments on these carousels. And like I said, there is nothing crazy about the production value of these things. It's really all in the messaging for him. He added over 1,000 email subscribers in a year from his Instagram account, which if you know anything about the value of email and marketing and getting clients from email, that made a huge impact on his ability to make sales. Ultimately, from all of these changes, his revenue doubled. And again, he had been in business for 10 years and was pretty much just plateaued at the same level for year after year after year. And he doubled his income in a year that a lot of businesses were actually shrinking, which is kind of incredible. He now has a system that brings his audience into sales conversations every single week. They're pre-qualified and pre-sold to. And when I say pre-sold to, they just understand what he does so much better, and they come into sales conversations already wanting what he has to sell, which is the dream, right? We all want to have sales conversations with people who already want what we're selling, and we do not have to try to convince them why they should want to work with us. He's working 4 days a week. He's very strict about that because, again, he wants to spend time with his family. He's got a young son that he wants to really watch grow up. He doesn't want to be working 40, 50, 60-hour weeks. So he's able to take a full day off every week and have this whole system work for him 24/7, even when he's offline. So what I want you to take from this case study, I guess we'll call it, is that you probably already have a lot of assets in your business that are prime for growing and consistent income. You may just be missing one core asset that would do 90% of the work for you, which for most of the people I work with, it's that sales link. So Chris didn't have a traffic problem. Yes, he benefited from adding Instagram back in, but he did have an audience that was buying his stuff. So it's not like he had to start from scratch with his audience. He's an amazing coach. Like, he did not have to take more certifications or just like try to get better at what he did. He was already fantastic at what he did. He obviously did not have a work ethic problem. Anyone who can run a podcast for 10 years clearly does not have a work ethic problem. He just had marketing on one side and his offer on the other, and the offer was just not super attractive to the people that he was marketing to. And there was nothing carrying people across from the marketing and the messaging over to the offer. So when we created that link for him, when we created that thesis messaging, when we installed the sales system for him, it made sales so much easier. And that was truly the thing that allowed him to double his revenue without having to work harder, without having to put out tons more content, without having to get a lobotomy and suddenly become an Instagram influencer. Nothing that he didn't want to do was necessary. And it really was a way for him to capitalize on all of the work and all of the things he had already built that just needed some tweaks, needed some adjustments in order to really start working well for him. Once that sales link exists, that bridge between your marketing and your offer, once you have that proven sales bridge for your business, everything changes. Your income stops depending on whether or not a post pops off that week, or whether or not you happen to be on somebody's podcast as an interviewee, or whether or not your email happened to get the most open rate that week. I mean, yes, all of those metrics can benefit you, but you're not on this ride of income where it's like, I literally don't know where my clients are coming from next month. It is something that can so dramatically change your business experience to have that sales link in place. And it all really boils down to how good your core thesis messaging is and how well you can make the connection between what your dream clients already want and what you're going to help them with inside of an offer that is actually attractive to them. So that is my walkthrough of how to get off the income roller coaster as a talented expert coach practitioner. You do not have to create sleazy, slimy sales funnels that are like, pitching hard at people every, 6 hours. You do not have to be on Instagram nonstop. You do not have to totally become a new person with a different personality to be able to get attention for your stuff. You can build all of this in a way that matches your personality, respects your expertise, is ethical and, respectful of the people that you work with, and create something that changes people's lives and helps you make incredible money doing it. That is the work that I do with my clients. That is what I am so passionate about, because the people that I work with are the best of the best when it comes to serving clients in an ethical and effective way. They truly care about the people that they work with. They want what's best for them, but they also want what's best for them and their family too, right? It doesn't have to be this zero-sum game where serving your clients well and helping them means that you have to suffer. You have to work your tail off for the amount of money you could have made just working in a hospital job somewhere. you can have everything that you want in your business and give your clients everything they want. And that is the kind of business model that I help my clients build. So if you're looking at your business right now and you're like, oh my gosh, I literally have nothing that connects my messaging and my marketing to my offer except for a lot of busy work and effort from me chasing people in the DMs, trying to get conversations started, hoping people book discovery calls. If you do not have a consistent way to pre-qualify and pre-sell people and get them into sales conversations already ready to buy from you, then that is what I can help you with right now. So I am opening up a couple of spots for one-on-one sales and systems audits. What we're going to do together in that process is look at your business as a whole, because all of this stuff works together, right? Like you can't just pop a sales system in and not look at, is the offer constructed well? Is your messaging on point? Where are you actually showing up online? Like all of that matters to actually build this sales link. But for most of you, that is going to be one of the highest leverage projects that you can focus on over the next few months. And I want to help you build it the right way, because if you do not understand the concepts of messaging effectively, it's likely that you'll build something that over teaches or overwhelms people or underwhelms people. Like literally, I think most people, when they create sales content, it either fire hoses them and totally overwhelms them, or they try to make things simple and try to do that whole don't teach, just like sell or whatever, right? Like the way that a lot of people tell you how to sell these days. And you just create the stuff that's like, nobody even cares what you're saying, because you're not giving them anything that's actually valuable. You're not helping them change their beliefs, change their perspectives. You're not giving them an aha moment. They don't even understand what you're saying, or you're saying stuff that's so basic that they're like, I've already heard this before. And then they just bounce, right? Like they're not actually going to stick with you to listen to what you're saying and how you're saying it. And oh my gosh, that's exactly what I'm looking for. What do I do next, right? So a lot of times doing your own messaging is really hard, because you know so much about your expertise that you don't even really know when you're being confusing, or you don't know when what you're saying is either too obvious or too jargony or too clinical or too confusing. Like it's just very difficult, if not impossible, to do it for yourself. So if you want to work with somebody who's got, at this point, about 15 years of messaging experience in the online space, both as a business coach and as a nutritionist that ran my own multi-six-figure nutrition business for over 7 years, that is really my core expertise. It's what I help most of my clients with, is really simplifying their messaging, taking all of their brilliance and condensing it into a powerful piece of messaging content that is that sales link between your overall visibility and marketing and the offer you want to sell, and making sure everything works as a cohesive system so that you can have that consistent, predictable income that you want to have in your business, so you can really focus on what you want to do, which is serving your clients well and having an impact on your audience. So if that sounds like what you're looking for, DM me the word sales link on Instagram. My account is at laura.schoenfeld. We'll make sure to link to it below or in the show notes. DM me the word sales link. If you are like, yes, this is the asset that's missing in my business. I do not have something that predictably connects my marketing efforts to my offer that I want to sell. And I need somebody to come in and actually build it with me, not just like give me some templates or a ChatGPT thing to like plug in and hope that it's going to come up with good messaging. I will work with you side by side to look at your offer, your marketing strategy, who your audience is, what you're trying to sell, and make sure that all of your messaging within that sales link is something that actually drives clients forward, helps them take action, helps them say yes to what you're selling, and creates desire for what you're selling when they already want the transformation, right? Like you don't have to convince them that they want the transformation. You need them to understand how your offer is the best way for them to get there, regardless of the price point. So if that's what you're looking for, like I said, DM me the word sales link on Instagram. We can chat about how I can help you actually create the system, test it, make sure it's working, and make sure that it really is doing its job to connect all of the content that you're putting out into the world with the people that you're here to serve, so that sales are easy, they're predictable, they're consistent, and you can actually count on your business income and not feel like it's resetting every single month. All right, well, that is it for me. I hope this was helpful for you. Again, if you want to chat more about how I can help you build this asset in your business to link your marketing with your offer so you can make sales predictable, DM me the word sales link on Instagram, and I can't wait to chat with you about how we can get you on track for a predictable, scalable, multi-six-figure business as an expert coach or practitioner. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Nourished CEO podcast. And if this episode got you thinking about how you're actually wired to run your business, your next step is to take the CEO type quiz. Because here's the thing. Most of the business advice out there was built for someone specific. And if that someone isn't you, it doesn't matter how hard you work or how many strategies you implement. It's just never going to feel right, and it's never going to work as well as it should. Knowing your CEO type changes all of that. After you take the quiz, your results page will walk you through your natural strengths, your biggest blind spots, and a concrete game plan for your offers, messaging, sales, and even your calendar, all built around how you actually think and lead. Not generic advice, your specific direction. It takes about 5 minutes and it's completely free. The link is in the show notes, or you can go to lauraschoenfeld.com/quiz. And if you already know your type and this episode resonated with you, share the quiz with someone else who needs it. The right framework at the right time can completely change how someone sees their business. And honestly, that's exactly why I made this. All right, I'll see you next time on the Nourished CEO podcast.